A few years ago, whenever I decided to turn this garage into a home gym, I knew that the best way to save space would be a folding wall rack. So I checked online to see what was out there. One of the main problems I kept on running into was that the racks that were available online didn't necessarily fit the space in my garage. But I figured, you know, maybe I could modify it to fit my space. But then I checked out the price. It was expensive. So then I thought about it, did a little, you know, back of the napkin sketch, and I came up with this. Overall, I'm really happy with the functionality of this wall rack. And to top it all off, it only cost me 75 bucks to make it. That being said, there are a few things that could be better. I was already thinking about making a second wall rack. So this is a great opportunity to improve my design and show you how I made them. The first thing we need to do is take some measurements. What you're going to do is you're going to measure the height of your ceiling and the width of your bar in between the collars. This is going to determine how wide and how tall your squat rack is going to be. All right, now that we got all of the measurements, it's time to cut all of our lumber to length. One thing I want to point out is that for this project, I'm using pressure treated lumber. The reason why I'm doing that is because my garage is not temperature and humidity controlled. You don't have to use pressure treated lumber for this project. If you're building this squat rack indoors, normal stud lumber will work just as fine. All right, let's get to cutting. Alright, so this is essentially the build. It's not really crazy, right? So the next thing that we need to do is we need to drill out the holes for the adjustable bar mount. So for the adjustment holes, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole every 3 inches all the way along the length of my vertical beams, just to make sure that I have a fair amount of adjustability for, you know, if I want to squat, if I want to bench, if I want to deadlift, if I want to shoulder press. So to drill the holes, I'm going to use my drill press because I have one. If you don't have one, that's totally fine. You don't need it. One thing I will mention is that the size of your hole does matter. The size of your hole is going to be determined by the outer diameter of the pipe that you're going to use for your bar mount. In this project, I'm using a 3/4 inch pipe with an outer diameter of 1 inch. So for my holes, I'm going to be drilling them 1 1/8 inch in diameter. You want to have your holes larger than the pipe that you're using, so that way you have a little room for error when you're drilling your holes and whenever you're adjusting your bar mount along the rack. Here, Will. This interruption in the regular woodworking program is brought to you by a walk for my dog. Yes, that is a 10-pound weight vest that he is carrying. My dog is fit. So if you're wondering why we went from drawing out our lines for the holes in the daylight to drilling the holes in no daylight, this is why. Did you eat poop? Alright, so there was a little bit of distraction last night whenever I was trying to get this done. My dog got hungry. But today's a new day, we're gonna finish up these holes. And as I said before, if you don't have a drill press to drill these holes, you don't need it. All you need is a drill. This is how you do it. You're gonna take a square and you're gonna have 2 straight references for whenever you're drilling this hole. One on the vertical end, like you can see here, on the 4x4 that I already drew, that's in line with the hole that I want to drill. The other one is a line that goes down the middle of your 4x4. Now what you're going to do is you're going to use the vertical line and the line splitting the 4x4 as references whenever you're starting to drill. If you line it up on both of those lines, you're going to be very close to perfectly straight through the wood. These look like they're lining up pretty well. I like it. Next thing we have to do is we have to make sure that we round off all of the edges to make sure it's nice and smooth, and we have to smooth out the inside of the holes. You know, but I just realized having y'all watch me sand out these holes is kind of boring, so we're just gonna do the really awesome B-roll where I'm routing these puppies. Alright, so now that we've got everything rounded over and the hole's nice and smooth, we're gonna work on the cross piece that connects to the wall mounts. These guys. For this squat rack, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be doing two things to connect these together. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use wood glue and pocket hole screws in order to just get this sucker in place. The next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna use these metal plated connector pieces that you can get at Lowe's for, I don't know, 75 cents. And I'm gonna connect them like so. What this is gonna do is it's gonna give this entire structure a ton of strength, and you won't ever have to worry about it breaking on you. Starting to look kind of like a little squat rack. Now it is time to connect them to the wall mounts. And the way we're gonna do that, we're gonna use some door hinges. It's gonna allow this thing to fold onto the wall mount. Just make sure that you get the hinges that are rated for at least 300 pounds. That's gonna handle just about all of the weight, unless you're an absolute savage. Then you might have to look into something a little bit more robust, but we should be fine. Before you start attaching the door hinges, take the extra time, make sure that everything in this area is nice and square. If you do that, then whenever you put this up on the wall, all you have to worry about is just making sure that this is level, and then everything else is gonna be nice and square. Good morning, everybody. Last night, my camera ran out of battery, so I wasn't able to get a whole lot of really good footage of this thing upright. I have to say that, man, this looks cool. While the camera was dead, I did add these caster wheels to the bottom of the rack. If you don't want the caster wheels and you just want this thing to sit on your ground and your ground's nice and level and smooth, that's totally fine. So there are three more things that we're gonna have to do before we can call this project complete. The first thing that we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to create the bar holders that are going to fit in those holes along the squat rack. The next thing that we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to create the locking mechanism that will lock the squat rack into place when it's open and then unlock to allow it to fold into the wall. And the last thing that we need to do is to mount this son bitch, and then we can call this project done. So, building the bar mounts. 3/4 inch pipe, pressure treated 2x4, 1/4 inch sheathing plywood. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to cut I'm gonna cut my loser. I'm having a really hard time collecting my words today for some apparent reason. So I'm just gonna do it, and I'm gonna show you how I did it, and then you can just follow along. If you go to Google and you type in DIY squat rack, you're gonna see all kinds of different bar mounts used with it. A ton of different materials. Some are more complex than one that I'm gonna build. Some of them are easier. For you, you just have to pick the one that best fits your needs. So the first thing that I did was cut my pressure treated 2x4 and my 1/2 inch plywood to 8 inches. This gives me enough space to attach 2 pipes and leaves me with a solid block to support the weight. Once I have all of my wood cut, I'm going to drill out the holes for the galvanized pipes. The size and spacing for these holes are the exact same as the holes I drilled for the vertical beams. 1 1/8 inch in diameter and 3 inches apart. To make the holes for the mounts, I'm going to drill completely through only 2 pieces of 2x4 and the plywood. Leave 2 2x4s completely untouched. You'll see why here in a second. To make the blocks that will hold the galvanized pipe, I chose to glue and screw together 2 2x4 pieces with the 1/2 inch plywood sandwiched between them. Plywood provides extra strength and will prevent the bar mount from splitting along the grain line of the 2x4 lumber. I used the galvanized pipe to keep the holes aligned as I drilled these pieces together. So now I've got like the basic block built and I've got the holes drilled for the pipe. What I need to do is I need to cut my galvanized pipe to length. So the way I'm going to do that is that I'm actually going to insert the piping into the blocks and then put that into the squat rack. And then from there I can see how much is exposed on the other side of the squat rack and then add you know, maybe 2 inches to that. And I'm gonna take a pencil and I'll just make a mark. So that way I have a little bit of wiggle room whenever I actually put this whole thing together. And we have room in the back for the pins that are gonna keep the bar mounts in place. All right, so now that I've got my galvanized pipe marked, it's time to cut these bad boys. The old school way of cutting metal pipe is to use a nice handsaw with a metal blade. Another way that you can cut this galvanized pipe, if you have the tool, is an angle grinder with a metal cutting blade on it. In this case, I don't want to create a whole lot of sparks with the angle grinder, so I think I'm going to stick to the handsaw. This is going to take a while.
2,000 years later.
Now that the galvanized pipe's cut to length, it's time to attach them. To do this, I inserted the pipe into the pre-drilled holes and then drilled a hole through the side of the block and completely through the pipe. From there, I can just add a screw through both parts and that'll keep the pipe in place.
All right, so now that we've got the piping in and it's nice and secure and we know it works, it's time to do the final part of the bar mount, which is to drill the holes in the back of these to receive a door pin. The door pin is what keeps the bar mount in place and keeps it from slipping out in the middle of your workout. One piece of advice, just like with the holes that we drilled for the galvanized pipe, you want to drill these a little bit larger than the thickness of your door pin. Let's do it. I know a lot of people who are going to be watching this video will not have a drill press because it is kind of a specialized tool. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a way that you can create the same consistent holes in the galvanized piping and just the holes in general for this entire project without using a drill press. So the idea is that what we're going to do is we're going to create a little box that this galvanized pipe is going to sit in. Once we have all of this set up, is we're going to take a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood scrap again and put it on top, and then from there we can drill through this into the pipe. This 3/4 inch piece of plywood is going to help us make sure that we drill into the same spot every time on the galvanized pipe, and it's going to help us drill straight down on the curved edges of this. It's going to prevent the drill from going from side to side, so you should be able to drill the hole through the galvanized pipe without a whole lot of issue. That was actually easier than my drill press. I mean, this just goes to show if you don't have a drill press, you don't need it. All you need is some scrap wood and a little bit of imagination, and then you can get it done. All right, so now that we've got the pins in, I'm gonna take a nice 45-degree angle, cut it right there, and to make it nice and neat, I'm gonna take another 45 and bring it down all the way to this corner here. And with that, the bar mounts are done, the rig itself is done, so the last thing we gotta do is just mount this puppy. Actually, I totally jumped the gun. I totally forgot about the latches that keep this thing locked into place whenever it's open. It's not that hard to do, so it'll just take me another second before we finish this thing off. That is going to be a wrap on this build. Overall, super happy with how this thing turned out, and it fits the space perfectly. Now, it's time to put this bad boy to the test, because that's what we do here. We make things out of wood, then we put them through a workout. Wood2Wod. It's in the name. All right, so this is the workout we got for today. How you feeling, bro?
I like bodybuilding.
Let's get this pump though. So we got the initial pump. Next, Linda's cousin. It's gonna be terrible.
3, 2, 1, go.
And that is going to be a wrap on this video. As always, if you like the building part of the video or you like the workout portion of the video, leave it down in the comments section and make sure that you like this video. So I have a grandiose plan to build a whole lot of stuff for this garage gym. So there are a lot of projects, project videos, and workouts still to come. So the first thing that I would love for y'all to do is make sure that you hit that subscribe button and that little ring notification bell so you get a notification anytime I put out a new video. And the second thing that I'd like for y'all to do is go down to the comment section below and leave a comment with a piece of gym equipment that you wanted for your space and you would like to see me build. I hope this video gave you enough insight on how to build one of these bad boys for yourself, or it gave you inspiration to build something else for your home gym. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.